How do you do? I'm Irene Lindgren, your hostess on Through the Kitchen Window here at WFBM TV in Indianapolis. Our Homemakers Show is telecast daily in compatible color. It's wonderful to have you with us once again today. And today we're going to tell you about a wonderful teenage party. I think sometimes anyone who wishes for his or her teens again, well, just doesn't remember. It's true that youth is wonderful, but it was George Bernard Shaw who once said, "Youth is such a wonderful thing, what a shame to waste it on the young." So often a teenager's life is really quite miserable because he or she is faced with learning so many things that sometimes that confusion is really just almost overwhelming. There's so many things to learn, like, learning how to meet people and greet friends, how to entertain, how to go out on a date, and how to behave in general like a budding man or woman. It's no wonder that sometimes young Joe plants his elbows on the table and eats as though he had never left the cave, and sometimes Susie, who has spent hours on her nail polish, still shows up at the dinner table in her blue jeans. Well, for despairing parents of teenagers, I have a wonderful idea, an idea for a wonderful party. You know, there's just nothing that makes quite as much of an impression on a teenager as the actual practice of hosting a party. So why not plan, or rather help your teenager to plan a wonderful party? Teenagers, it seems to me, are so easily pleased with something that's clever, something that's different, something that's new, and something that's just a little bit on the zany side, shall we say. Now, they all love records. I understand that the teenagers have a tremendous influence on the recording industry. So why not give something as simple as a record party and build your refreshments and party decorations around records? Cookies made to resemble miniature records will be very much in order, and they'll be very popular. So how about a menu like this? Something like rock and roll apples. Thank you. I'll tell you about those in just a moment. And the main dish, which is going to be the sandwich, the sub. Then we're going to have platter patter cookies, and I'll tell you how to make those in just a moment, and also a syncopated soda. But back to the first item that we have here. This is the apple, the rock and roll apple, and that's made by simply melting caramels, adding water, stirring until the mixture is nice and smooth, and putting the skewer into the stem end of the apple, dip that apple into the caramel, lift it out, let it drain a bit, and then simply roll about half of it in a cereal of some type, or chopped nuts if you prefer. Then we have the sub, and that is the sandwich here, of course, as I mentioned. This is a miniature sub. These can be made from actually a whole loaf of bread, and I'll bet there are some teenagers who could consume that whole loaf of bread, too, because, of course, they usually have tremendous appetites, the boys particularly. Well, this is a combination of salami or chili, if you like, and green pepper, just any combination of wonderful foods that the teenagers love. Cut the top off of that hard roll or a loaf of French bread and hollow it out and put the mixture in, put the top on. There we have the sub. One of the most popular sandwiches, one that all teenagers love. Here we have the platter patter cookie. That is an oatmeal cookie, and incidentally, we'll give you the recipes for these just a little bit later in the show. This is an oatmeal cookie. The dough is chilled, and it's rolled out, and then it's cut with a coffee can. I'm sure you haven't a cookie cutter in your house as large as this, so simply use a coffee can, and you'll have a 5-inch cookie. Then frost it with a chocolate frosting. Cut a piece of construction paper in a circle, make a hole in the center of it, and write the name of some of the popular songs on that, and put it on top of that cookie. There we have it. And then we have the soda, which is a very nice, unusual soda. Thanks, Pat. That is ice cream, root beer, pineapple, 2 types of ice cream if you like, too. Just a wonderful combination of flavors. And whipped cream and a cherry, and if you like, even some chopped nuts on the top of that. We have a very nice table that we'd like to show you now for this teenage party, and a suggestion for the invitation using popular songs. And it might read something like this: "Happy days are here again for all you guys and dolls, because I'm giving a party, so I hope I'll hear you knocking at my front door at 8:30 on Friday night. Come disguised as your favorite song." So just roll back the rugs, put the favorite records on, and call in the teenage gang, and I'm sure they're going to have a wonderful time. You know, you might begin the party to guess which song each costume illustrates, and I'm sure it will be a wonderful party. Maybe you mothers are just filled with wonderful ideas for your teenager's party. But remember that your teenagers are filled with ideas too, and they should be listened to. It's very, very important that they be included in these party plans. Let's take a look at this party that I'm sure any teenager would really enjoy. And here we have the foods again that we just fixed, and we'll include the recipes for you just a bit later. Here we have the sub, that very popular teenage sandwich, shall we say. And here we have the rock and roll apples, caramel apples with cereal or nuts as you prefer on the caramel. And here we have the platter patter cookies, the oatmeal cookies with the chocolate and the paper discs with the names of popular songs like 17, Kokomo, Autumn Leaves, Love and Marriage, and Yellow Rose of Texas. And here we have the glasses for the soda and the soft drinks that I'm sure you want to include at your teenage party. You know, young people have to be listened to as they grow up because their feelings and ideas are very important to them, as they should be. Teenagers can be helped to grow up by being treated with respect, and no matter how half-baked their ideas may seem to you, don't ridicule them and don't try to show them up. If you parents want to keep in contact with your teenagers, just pay attention to them when they talk and really listen to them and set a good example for them. And let those teenagers help in the planning, as I mentioned before. Let them plan right from the very beginning and right on through the party. I'm sure that you'll be happier with these home parties, knowing that your teenagers are being entertained and entertaining themselves and their friends in happy, pleasant, and wholesome surroundings. Help your teenagers to grow up by bringing out the very best in them. Help them by giving them responsibility, a place to entertain in their own homes, and an opportunity to develop the graciousness of hosting a party just such as the one we have here. They'll be mighty proud of their abilities to entertain. They'll be proud of their home, and they'll be very proud of you as a parent, too, I'm sure. We have an outstanding teenager with us this afternoon. She is Judy Schuler, who has excelled in 4-H work, in school, and in church work. And among her many accomplishments, Judy lists the 4-H Cherry Pie Queen of Indiana as one of her accomplishments. The State Dairy Foods Demonstration Championship is another, and the State Vegetable Contest winner as another. Judy is a senior at Ben Davis High School in Indianapolis. Judy is an officer of several school organizations. Judy, would you like to join us now? So nice to have you with us. How are you?
Fine. I'm glad to be here today.
By the way, I'd like to tell you, before we go on to talk to Judy for a bit, that Marion County, that includes Indianapolis, of course, has the largest 4-H enrollment of any county in the United States. And Marion County, of course, includes city as well as rural young people in their 4-H work. Now, Judy made this wonderful trip to New Orleans, and Judy went to Chicago, and you competed with 48 other contestants in this Cherry Pie Queen contest, and I know we have your wonderful recipe for cherry pie, and it's very, very nice. Now, Judy, I understand that you are on several panel discussion groups at school. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the panel discussions were held before our Parent Teachers Association, and then I was on another panel that discussed them before several girls' clubs. Some of the questions that we discussed were, for one thing, the time that you should be in after a date.
And now, what was the time? What did you decide on this
discussion? We finally decided that 12 o'clock midnight was the time for weekend dates to be over.
Well, that sounds good and sensible. And now, what are some of the other things you discussed?
Well, we discussed going steady and at what age you should first start dating.
Now, what did you decide about going steady in this discussion panel?
Well, actually, we reached no decision. We decided that it more or less depended upon the boy and the girl, their age, and how emotionally mature they actually were.
Well, I think that's a very good, sensible way of looking at it, and I think that you're being very sensible about these discussions, too, and wonderful to have you with us here, Judy, and I hope you can join us once again, and lots of good luck on future contests and in 4-H work as well. And as I told you earlier, we have tried your wonderful recipe for cherry pie, and it's really very, very delightful. I understand that Indiana did win this vegetable judging contest in New Orleans, right?
That's correct.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, Judy, thanks for being with us, and join us once again, and I think perhaps you and your teenage friends would enjoy a party like this, right?
That's right.
And now, perhaps with your pencil and paper in hand, you would like to copy the first tested recipe that we have to share with you, and that's a recipe for the Platter Patter cookies.